A couple of years ago, I made a near 40-minute long video expressing my love for the Super Mario series, not just to celebrate the 35th anniversary, but also for March 10th, which can also be described as Mario Day. For those of you who don't know, March 10th is a day that I thought that was something my sister made up, but then other people started noticing it too. Take the first 2 letters of March and then put a 10 at the end, and it basically spells, well, Mario. And I always thought that was the coolest thing, since those who know me know that I'm a huge fan of the Super Mario series. And more than 50% of the video games I own are in fact Mario games. After all, Mario is basically the face of video games. And you know all the music that pops in your head just from looking at this magnificent man. Iconic, isn't it? Going back to that video I made in 2021, that video was something I'm still proud of, but I never really got to express my true feelings of why this series means so much to me. And today, I want to only focus on that. The games that made an impact on my life, and why the Super Mario series still remains my favorite franchise of all time. This is how Super Mario changed my life. Our story starts, surprisingly, not with a Mario game. Our story begins with Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. This was my first exposure to video games, and I vividly remember being in the same room as my older sisters when they played the game. I was only about 3 to 4 years old at the time, and I never really got to play until my sisters left the game running and I picked up the controller out of curiosity. My life changed at the very moment I saw my character actually responding to my inputs. So that's what started it all. Eventually I was introduced to Super Mario through watching one of my cousins playing Super Mario World. It was the coolest thing I ever saw, this red and blue clad man running, jumping, collecting coins, power-ups, and even riding a green dinosaur. I wanted to play that game so bad. And somewhere along the road, I actually got my very own SNES cartridge of Super Mario All-Stars. This here is what truly introduced me to Super Mario. I'm glad this is where I started. Having 4 different Mario games to enjoy all in one cartridge gave me the most enjoyment out of all the games I played on the Super Nintendo. I still say this is the definitive way to experience the classic Super Mario Bros. Trilogy, especially Super Mario Bros. 3. Super Mario All-Stars has a save system that allows you to pick up from what world you left off in, and being that you had an interactive overworld map to select what levels you wanted to play, saving your progress is a must. My sister and I actually kind of bonded over this game, and me playing as Mario and her being Luigi brings the happiest of memories. We were so close back then when we played through that game together. I can only remember so much of my years of preschool and kindergarten, but what I do remember is visiting other family members and watching them play the Nintendo 64. I got to watch my cousins play Mario Party and Mario Tennis whenever I visited my tia's house. And 4-player gameplay was a sight to behold. I wanted to be part of the fun, or I wished I could be part of the fun, but everyone was just so much older than me and the room was so packed that I already knew that I wasn't going to have a turn anytime soon. However, there was one game one of my cousins actually let me play one day, and that game being Super Mario 64. I got to control Mario in a 3D environment for the first time, and I just had fun and messed around outside of Peach's castle. That's really the only thing I remember about playing Mario 64 at a very young age. I also have fond memories of going to the McDonald's playgrounds, not really for the play place, but rather the N64 games they let us play there. Mario Kart 64 was such a highlight, and it allowed me to connect with the other kids in the process. I wasn't much of a social kid when it came to being around other kids, but getting to play video games with other people besides just my sisters, gave me this sense of fulfillment I've never felt before. I didn't really know how to play, nor did I grasp the concept of a race, but controlling my car was just as fun to learn. And this is where I started picking up on the fact that Mario games can be enjoyed by anyone and everyone. Little did I know that things would change the following years. Things would change for the better and for the worse. The release of the Nintendo GameCube couldn't have come at a much better time. I remember going to Walmart with my parents back when they had playable demos for the new and upcoming gaming systems of the time. Oh, those were the days. And I came across a Super Mario Sunshine demo just waiting to be played. My dad encouraged me to go try it out, and it was actually very interesting. The colors were very vibrant, Mario felt so fun to control, he had a water device. It was very unique. It was unlike anything I had ever played. At some point, my dad actually came home with the Nintendo GameCube one day, and I wasn't sure what to feel about it. I was too young to even know what a next-gen console was. All I knew was that I no longer had to wait my turn to play video games because I always had to get my sister's permission to play the Super Nintendo. Playing Super Mario Sunshine on my own, I enjoyed it very much. Just going to say this right now, this is my favorite game of all time. Not just my favorite Mario game, no, my favorite video game of all time, period. This is a game I owe everything to. Say what you will about its flaws and how it's basically the black sheep of Mario games, but when you're 5 or 6 years old, you don't even think to criticize level design. You just take what you're given and you enjoy it. I already talked my head off in my Why I Like Mario video about all the things I love about Super Mario Sunshine, so I won't repeat myself for that matter. I think everyone has a story about games like these and how special they are to them. Because no matter what your generation is, there's always going to be that one game that's just always there to reignite those childhood memories. For me, it was no exception. Super Mario Sunshine was a pretty new game for me as a kid, and not everyone played this game. Not everyone bought it. But the ones who did play it were also blown away. People were amazed about how much of a step up it was from Mario 64 and how different the world was compared to other things that Mario's been in. But this game had more of a personal impact on me more than anything. When I played the GameCube titles, not just Mario Sunshine, but also Mario Party 4, Luigi's Mansion, and other games like Pikmin and Wario World, yeah, the works. I was going through a weird time in my life for the very first time. It was a time when I went from being the most happy-go-lucky kid to being really confused and sometimes sad. I remember the early 2000s being a time when I had to learn to face harsh realities of life that were, quite frankly, a lot for a kid like me to handle. Growing up, I had to experience the following. Seeing the passing of my grandfather from my dad's side of the family, my sisters basically becoming adults, having graduated high school and moved out of the house, so that was kind of sort of the end of getting to know my siblings. And the big thing being, I learned that I was on the autism spectrum. That really was my biggest issue growing up, and still kind of is today. Being on the autism spectrum, I struggled to blend in with others, and my brain just worked so much differently than everyone else's. So, as a result, my parents made me ride a different bus, and they had me mingle with other kids who also had special needs. To be fair, I didn't think too much about it back then, because to my surprise, those kids I rode the bus with also liked video games. They also knew about Super Mario Sunshine, and we would talk about it whenever it was brought up. I'll even say we became friends at the time too. These would be the friends that I would invite over to my house to play video games together, like Mario Party 4 and Super Smash Bros. Melee. Those games just brought my friends and my family together, and I was once again feeling that sense of fulfillment. Like, playing Mario games made me so happy, and it made me even happier to enjoy it with others. And whenever I'd come back home from school, I'd always look forward to playing the GameCube after finishing my homework. And every time I'd pick up games like Super Mario Sunshine, I was always feeling so peaceful. Gonna go a little off subject for a bit, but most of my kid years consisted of Disney movies, some DreamWorks movies, Nintendo GameCube, and Game Boy Advance games. To be perfectly honest, I was a little obsessed. Like, I was socially awkward to the point where I would just blurt out random movie quotes or even reenact entire scenes from some Disney or Pixar movies. And when I wasn't playing video games, I was consulting the instruction booklets that came with the game cases. Remember those? Then I would repeat what I learned out loud out to my parents or other relatives. Even I'm amazed on how good my intellect was at ages 7 to 8. However, it did kind of annoy everyone around me, especially those I tried to socialize with both at school and at summer programs. So, because I often felt isolated from the other kids, I found myself escaping through video games. Going back a little bit, but when my older sisters moved out of the house, because, they were grown up and done with high school and stuff, and they wanted to basically live their own lives, I was very confused about it, and I was too young to grasp the concept of growing up and adulting. Just, stuff like that seemed so bizarre to me. But, like I said, I was just very young and very naive. So, I often escaped into Super Mario Sunshine to cope. It truly felt like an escape, and a place where I could legitimately feel happy. And hearing Mario's cheerful voice and executing how many amazing moves he has was all I needed to fill in that emptiness I was feeling. Nothing but pure, unadulterated fun was all I needed. And Super Mario Sunshine was just that. Let's turn the clock forward a bit. Things began to pick up by the time games like Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Party 6 came out, because at the time, my second oldest sister would often come and visit me, and we'd at least play one game of Mario Kart before she took off. Better yet, some summers, my cousins would come visit me, or I'd visit them, and we'd play Mario games together too. That alone helped me grow a passion for video games as a whole. My favorite childhood memories mainly consist of my friends, family, and I playing Mario games. On the N64, the GameCube, eventually the Wii, which I will get to later. When it comes to Mario RPG games, they taught me how to read, and they encouraged me to interact with the world around me, talk to other characters, get to know them, and come up with the best strategies when it comes to defeating enemies. And some stories often brought me to a tear as well. They also taught me that Mario was so much more than just a side-scroller. Mario can fit in just about any role, and you're basically in for a good time. And Mario has such a cool cast of characters, each with their own distinct appearances and personalities. The world was expanding more and more, and Bowser was the most intimidating but also entertaining villain I've ever seen. And it was just so great to know the direction the series was going back in the day. And now we get to my teen years. And I'll be honest, it was a really weird time. I was always so anxious about stepping into new territory and trying new things. Even when I did try new things, I'd feel it just wasn't for me and I'd drop out of it a day or two later. And then I began frickin' middle school. Oh boy. The shift from elementary school to middle school was the biggest culture shock I have ever received in my life. For once in my life, I was a social outcast. Everyone else at school wasn't into things like Mario or Sonic or Pokemon, anything Nintendo really. I was often looked down on and even ostracized for liking these things. People sometimes dubbed me as that one nerd who likes things that no one else likes. Everyone around me was always about sports, American dramas, thriller shows, rap music, modern pop songs, and on the subject of video games, it was all about FIFA or Call of Duty. I was never allowed to play games like that. I wasn't allowed to play games with guns or games that had blood and gore. So as a result, I felt more isolated than ever. I felt that this world just had no room for someone like me, whose brain worked differently than everyone else's. So I continued escaping through video games because it was the only happy place I felt I had. However, I couldn't keep that up forever. In order to actually survive middle school, I unfortunately had to pull a bold move and actually try to fit in with everyone, so hopefully they would like me and accept me. So I dropped video games for a while, and I found myself getting into things like art, computers, dancing, soccer, basketball, photography, videography, and even drama and theater, which really helped me come out of my shell. I was even an honors student during my 7th grade and 8th grade years. But also during those years, I discovered something that changed my life once again in the form of the Nintendo DS and the Wii. During middle school, I often sat alone during lunch break because I just couldn't meet the expectations of almost anyone around me. But one day, I just so happened to discover some kids playing the Nintendo DS, and I would often watch over their shoulders just to see what games they were playing. To my surprise, they were playing Mario Kart. And I remember thinking, hey, I used to love playing Mario Kart as a kid. Is it still fun to play on these systems? For once in my life, I was willing to jump back in. When I was in 7th grade, I remember getting the Wii for Christmas, and I found my love for video games start to reignite slowly but surely. Games like Mario Kart Wii, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, and even New Super Mario Bros. Wii basically felt like Mario was welcoming me back after a while of not caring much about video games. Then around 8th grade, I got a Nintendo DSi for Christmas. Right then and there, I finally got to hang with those people that own DSs too, and playing local wireless with them was what really got me back into games. And because I was so open about how much I enjoyed Mario games, it made my fellow classmates want to reach out to me. And they even gave me tips about some of those games because they enjoyed it before too. For example, a majority of my classmates actually had experience with the new Super Mario Bros. Game on the DS, and they taught me how to access Worlds 4 and 7, which required you to beat the 3rd and 5th World's castle bosses as Mini Mario. They even instructed me about how to find some star coins and find some secret exits. I felt happy to be a Mario fan again, and I actually stopped feeling so insecure about it. I actually carried this mentality with me going into high school. Yeah, some people still made fun of me and my friends for liking these games, but it was then when I learned that I shouldn't care about what others say or think. You are allowed to like what you like, and you're not hurting anyone by doing so. So, I started sharing about my love for the series on the internet. And to my surprise, I found Facebook groups that loved Nintendo games, and I found some groups that often had online lobbies for games like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, and Pokemon. It was quite a time to be a Mario fan, let me tell you. Games like Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 were already huge blockbusters of games that a lot of people enjoyed, myself included. Games like New Super Mario Bros. Wii were all the talk too, and we would often share funny stories about how wacky the game can be with 4 players on the screen. It was around this time when I discovered YouTubers like Chugga Conroy, and he was publicly passionate about Mario games. That alone inspired me to create this very YouTube channel. Through him, I was actually motivated to actually finish Super Paper Mario, a game I didn't like as much as Thousand Year Door. Now as for the DS titles, New Super Mario Bros. DS and Super Mario 64 DS had those touchscreen based minigames that were super addicting and even competitive. My family members and I often competed for high scores in a majority of those games, and my sister still holds the top record for Whack-A-Monty to this day. I always have a blast getting family and friends together to play games like Mario Kart and Mario Party. And from there, it's anything goes. See, that's just the thing. Mario games are just pure, unadulterated fun. When people discuss their favorite video game franchises, you'll usually hear things like, I like Pokemon because it's cute. I like Sonic the Hedgehog because it's fast, frantic, and full of personality. Or, I like Legend of Zelda because it's filled with adventure and intriguing lore. But when's the last time you've heard anyone talk about why they like Mario? I mean, sure, when you bring up Super Mario, they'll instantly recognize the name, the game, and what it's about. You'll hear things like, oh, Super Mario Bros. On the NES was a classic, or Super Mario 64 was such a groundbreaking game, a product of its time. But do you ever hear a legit explanation of why Super Mario is such an iconic, great series? Right up there with all the other iconic video game franchises. Thing is, they don't really need explanations. They are fun for everyone. I mean, yeah, most of the time it's about this little Italian plumber man who goes on an adventure to rescue Princess Peach from the clutches of the evil King Koopa, or Bowser as he's known here in the West. But as a whole, Mario games are well known for being simple, to the point, and having solid gameplay with catchy music and great level design. Creativity is what defines Mario. Then the consistency to that creativity continues throughout the series. These games are designed to focus on the actual fun. Looking at the games in spectacle, nothing about the Mushroom Kingdom makes any sense at all. I mean, why would consuming this polka-dotted mushroom cause our hero to grow 2 times his size? Why do we have to jump on these turtles just to kick their shells around and get more points? Who asks those questions nowadays? Mario just has a fun and wacky world where anything can happen, and nothing should be taken seriously. I mean, just look at this colorful cast of characters alongside Mario. I bet at least one of us can resonate with any of these characters, right? Not just our hero himself. Though Mario is still my favorite. He's my main in almost anything, including Super Smash Bros., as you can see here. To conclude this video, now I want to get into how Mario has impacted me as a person. So, I've been a fan of this dude for pretty much my entire life. To be honest, Mario's games helped shape my taste in media, and his mere existence means the world to me. All these confusing times of my life, be it middle school, high school, college, and even a global pandemic that lasted about 2 years, I have never given up on Mario one bit. Neither has he ever given up on me. Still to this day, I'm the Mario guy. Heck, they don't call me Super Bro for nothing. I was always that guy at school playing Mario games on my DS. In the present day, on the Nintendo Switch, I'm still enjoying games like Super Mario Odyssey. And this is the most fun I've ever had playing a Mario game. I've spent so many hours playing this, and it too kept me company during those dark and lonely times. I own pretty much every mainline Mario game, all the compilation games, a majority of the Mario RPGs, every single Mario Party game to date, every single Mario Kart game, the entire Luigi's Mansion trilogy, the Yoshi games, some of the Wario titles, and I'll still be enjoying a majority of these games until the cows come home. And I can talk about these amazing games until the cows come home. I want to talk to you guys more and more about how much this series means to me, but I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Don't worry, I got some more content ahead, so stay tuned for that. Did the Super Mario series change your life too? Let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to discuss more of this with you guys on Threads and even Instagram. So, that about does it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm Super Bro Alex, and thank you so much for watching, and Happy Mario Day! Woohoo!
The music just turns me on.